Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Feeling Seen, the podcast that talks about the movies that make us feel seen. Today I'm here with, I'm going to say a beloved figure. This is a figure beloved in film, beloved on the internet. Someone that I think for the first time in their feature filmmaking life, you saw them in the Rian Johnson movie Brick, Dode in the movie Brick, and then you've seen him subsequently in everything else Rian Johnson has done. More recently, you may have seen his directorial debut work in an anthology format in Scare Package. Maybe you've seen him on screen recently in movies like The Pale Door or the new Blood Relatives, or maybe you've just been a fan of his on the internet and you're like, I know that name, Noah Segan. I'm going to stop by and check this out. Noah Segan, is there anything else that people need to know about you before we get started?
Oh, I'm a little bit ambidextrous. Not really. Okay. Like, both my folks are lefties. I'm a righty, so I learned a lot of stuff with my left hand. That's sort of a big one.
Can you do your signature with your left hand?
I can, but I have a really I really should have done what every good Jewish child should do and become a doctor because my handwriting is so bad.
Well, I hope your parents were like, hey, you know what? His handwriting's bad enough. We'll let him go on to explore the creative arts. And they weren't too disappointed that you didn't choose doctor.
They are thankfully incredibly supportive. So even though I'm not a doctor, a lawyer, I am an amateur CPA. So if anybody has any tax questions, go ahead, send them in. Happy to help.
Well, Noah, let's start off with the work that brings you here today as a maker yourself. Tell us a bit about Blood Relatives.
Blood Relatives is a movie, a feature-length movie.
Feature-length directorial debut for you.
It is the first feature-length movie that I directed. I wrote it. I act in it. I produced it. Occasionally, I would help carry things to and from set as well. It was a real team effort. Mm-hmm. And it is the story of a vampire who thinks he's a really cool guy. He's got like a leather jacket and he's got slick backed hair and he drives an old muscle car and just thinks he is just can I say the word? Can I say he thinks he's the shit.
Yeah. You can say it. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's what this guy thinks he is. And then one day a teenage kid shows up and says, "You're my dad." Mm-hmm. And they end up on a road trip together trying to figure out how to be a vampire family.
And your daughter is played by the excellent Victoria Morales, who, if you've not seen Plan B, watch Plan B, and this one is a Victoria Morales double feature, and have yourself a good night.
She is the best actor I've ever worked with.
You have worked with massive Rian Johnson ensembles, so that's a really big fucking gold star.
Well, I will say that Vic does what the best actors I've ever worked with are able to do, which is she has done so much work behind the scenes that when she shows up on any given day or even on the day that you meet her, because, we did most of our work over Zoom and phone calls and getting to know each other that way because of the pandemic and the lockdown. When we finally got together, she had fully formed this character and had such an attention to the detail and the moments that I thought, okay, great. I can, just do your thing. Whatever you're thinking is better than whatever I would think. And then we get into the editing room and I realize that she's like doing an impression of me. She's like doing what kids do to their parents, which is sort of kind of make fun of them all the time. And so I thought it was the most successful troll of all time.
I don't have anyone. There's no one there. They were going to make me go into foster care.
Well, you're 15. A few more years, you can do whatever you want.
I can do whatever I want right now, dude. What I wanted was to find you and figure my shit out.
Well, you sure figured out some of it, didn't you?
That sounds great. And now this is, obviously this is a conversation, a podcast about like the ways in which we find ourselves on screen. Had you been longing to see Jewish vampire representation for a very long time in your life, or is that a recent interest of yours that you wanted to bring into the fore?
Well, we've all seen Dracula Dead and loving it.
Yes.
Of course, which
we
is...
were a Leslie Nielsen household growing up, so absolutely we've seen that.
We have a saying in the old country. Nos toi vlekla, then my pushta.
They also said, Stanija ploftoi, gag mul perfuft.
Very impressed, friend Helsing. You speak the ancient Moldavian.
Validadalinka.
And, because of all of his work with Mel and other great Jews, we claim Leslie. We really do. He helps broaden the horizon. But I think, I don't know if Jewish vampire was initially the goal here. I think that the goal was really to sort of dovetail one version of vampirism, which is thinking that you're like, Mr. Cool Guy actor who stays up all night and, wears cool jackets. And then all of a sudden your dad who stays up all night burping a baby and they're both vampires. But at some point I think I realized that, as I become a grown-up, I sort of owe my kids their history, and I owe my kids their culture and their heritage. And I'm a very assimilated Jew. I'm on my mother's side a fifth-generation New Yorker. It's a very special kind of Jew that also celebrates Christmas, and we don't keep kosher, and I can't remember the last time I went to shul, but I do consider myself very Jewish, and especially over the last few years, I consider myself very Jewish because I feel like it's sort of up to all of us who have ever felt like they are an other to acknowledge that and to band together. And so as I was sort of trying to figure out what this relationship was going to be between dad and kid, that had to be part of it because that's my relationship with my kids.
This movie is a tender movie. It's a tender family story. It's a sardonic family story. But like the moments where I found myself just sort of periodically so moved by when aspects of your familial history, your character's familial history comes up in this movie, looking through like a photo box and Jane trying to figure out like, where she's from and what she is of. And she, there's no family and you're like, there's no one left. And she's like, I mean, there's got to be a cousin. And you just look at her very sternly and you're like, there's no one left. And that was very like, you lace that in really effectively for it to not be jarring and to just fit really seamlessly into the other emotional and sort of silly and laugh along threads of this movie that we get. And that was something I thought was really special about it.
Oh, well, I really appreciate it. I mean, I come from a very privileged Jewish experience where the family that I had who died during the Holocaust were not people that I knew. Personally. Everyone who is Jewish who traces their roots through Europe lost their family. That's a fact. And for many of us, we can't put names and faces to that. And for many of us, we can. And of course that I can't imagine what that's like. But I can try to speak to it. Because it is a through line for all of us, right? And of course for all of us who again think of ourselves as others, for anyone who's comes from a place where genocide is part of our history, and for many of us, I think we have to laugh along with the tragedy, because how else are we going to make it? How else are we going to make sense of it? And how else are we going to own it, right? Because you own your laughter, right? You own the things that make you happy. And so if you can't sort of dovetail and augment those experiences that are so tragic and and traumatic into something that makes us smile and care about the people that we love and care about the things that we love, then you're going to be immobile. Which is sort of the story of this guy, right? Who kind of is, this vampire sort of has done that. He sort of found this subsistence level that is very common with vampires, right? This idea that you kind of live forever, but nothing really happens. And so how do you...
It does feel like a nice switch up to me. It's a vampire that hasn't like spent the generations amassing great wealth and is now living like Queen Sophie Anne in True Blood. Like, it's just a guy making it work.
Just a guy in an old car driving back and forth across the country.
That somebody else is paying the registration on.
Yeah, he's kind of a freeloader. Yeah, he's sort of like an out-of-work actor.
Well, and not that like I'm a horror is sort of my area of specialization, and I thought it was really interesting too to just, and not even from maybe from a place of intent, but perhaps not, but just the way in which something like this can serve as, with you putting like the history and the holistic nature of this character very forward and his Jewish culture, and with there being like from back to Count Orlok and Nosferatu, there being a vessel of anti-Semitic messaging and symbolism through vampirism in instances of horror throughout time. To have something like this that is just simple and family and human and funny and good, I think is a really nice way to show how horror grows and progresses, and the ways in which we have more tools now to bring to bear in conversation about people and identity, how we can work that into genre cinema in a really low friction way that just does the work of pulling us forward without feeling like the work of pulling us forward, which is how you get people to listen to you when they don't feel like they're doing homework.
Well, I appreciate that as someone who has never done homework in his life, as a whatever it was, 9th or 10th grade dropout. I can appreciate finally someone saying, Noah, you did your homework.
Noah, you did your homework.
Thank you. That again will make my my Jewish parents very, very proud. But I think that to speak to sort of this atmosphere that is, I hope, sort of way above the movie, way above like the things that make us smile and make us feel entertained and like we're on an adventure. Yeah, there is this history of anti-Semitism, blood libel, the connection to Roma people and generally people from Central and Eastern Europe being persecuted and having this vampirism trait applied to them. The thing that I noticed as I kind of dove deeper into vampire lore, right? Because we have a lot of socially conscious and socially sort of social justice movement in horror in general. I mean, going back to Night of the Living Dead. I mean, absolutely. Romero being a great advocate, and then we also have movies like Ganja and Hess, which is my favorite vampire movie and is obviously as much about the Black experience and probably the East Coast 1960s and 70s Black experience, right? So you get really specific, or I hope you get really specific. I'm hoping I'm on track with what how that applies to vampirism, and so it didn't feel like I was so much on a soapbox with the Jewish vampire stuff as trying to sort of steal from the best.
Thank you for bringing a Ganja and Hess shout out to the pod. This is exactly what we live for on here. And I'm going to, like, as we have talked about this thread that is so fundamental to you in your identity, self-identification, I think that the character choice that you picked, the way that it aligns with blood relatives, we have two surprise dads doing their best in blood relatives who might not be cut out for the role, at least at the start, with you and blood relatives. And then in the character you brought, H.I. McDonough, as played by Nicolas Cage in the Coen Brothers movie, Raising Arizona.
My name is H.I. McDonough. Call me High. They got a name for people like you, High. That name is called recidivism.
Repeat offender.
Not a pretty name, is it, High?
No, sir. That's one bonehead name, but that ain't me anymore.
You're not just telling us what we want to hear.
No, sir, no way.
'Cause we just want to hear the truth.
Well, then I guess I am telling you what you want to hear.
So, is it a father thing? Is this a long-standing point of connection for you, H.I. McDonough? Like, does this predate Dad?
You know, it predates Dad, if only that I am such a huge fan of the Coens and of Cage and of Holly Hunter, and I mean, I could go on and on.
But it really does feel like you could just, if I went back watch any Coen Brothers movie, it feels like if you popped up in any one of them, it would make sense. I feel like you fit in that ensemble, Noah.
That's the greatest compliment I think I've ever gotten, and I hope that they are they're listening. I'll tell you a really funny. Can I veer off into a really funny story? So I auditioned for a Coen Brothers movie, and as you can expect, I did not get the role. But I was late. I was late to another meeting, and the meeting was with one of my other idols, Roger Corman.
Oh, shit. Okay. Wait, was that like the same day? Did you go audition for the Coen Brothers to go to a Corman meeting?
It was the same day, and I was late, and I was sweating. Hollywood. I was sweating bullets, and I was, I don't know, let's say I was 25 years old. Wow. I was still pretty green, and I was really, really anxious to meet Roger, and he walked in the room, and he was very warm, and I just started apologizing. I'm so sorry, I'm late. And he was very kind in this sort of fatherly way, and he said, "Oh, well, was it traffic?" And I said, "No, I was coming from another audition," and I think he was just trying to make small talk, and he said, "Well, what was the audition for?" Because I think he was just trying to calm my nerves, just trying to sort of talk to me about what was going on in my life as opposed to his movie. He was
like, I'm a big deal for you right now, so like let's just normalize. Yeah,
and I said, "Oh, it was for a Coen Brothers movie," and he looked at me and he said, "Kid, if you're auditioning for a Coen Brothers movie, I'm not sure that you should be meeting on a Corman movie."
Oh, I love that. It's like, Roger, no, I love you.
Roger, don't you get it? It's the same thing. To me, it's the same thing. And I think that someday, hopefully, maybe I'll get an opportunity to ask Joel or Ethan, don't you think it's the same thing? And I think that they would say, yeah, I think it is.
Wow, what a day in your life, Noah. What a day in your fucking life.
Hell of a day. And I didn't get either role, so here we are.
Oh, Roger, clearly he was harried coming in from the Coen Brothers audition. Do him a solid. Well, but okay, so then how old were you then when you first encountered Raising Arizona?
I was, I believe that I was pretty young because Raising Arizona was one of those movies that was played on basic cable all the time.
All the time.
All the time. It was on one of those basic cable stations, and as a kid, the music and the camera work are like a cartoon, right? It kind of, I feel like it sort of drew me in on this very aesthetic level that that made it a favorite, that made it feel comforting, right? And that's the thing that I think is something that I thought of a lot when making Blood Relatives, was sort of the movies that as a kid made me feel like I was a little bit sophisticated, like I was watching a real movie in quotes. And now as a grown up, you go like, oh my gosh, this is a warm blanket, right? It's sort of like, it has stayed with me for a long time. And then starting a family and sort of watching kind of the Sisyphusian effort that the movie is really about, right? This sort of like, this game you won't win.
Yeah.
Ever. And I think and I think that's what's so important about parenthood is that there is the end game is the end of the movie, is that you are sitting around a table with your kids and their kids, right? That you did the thing.
Yeah.
That we as people, one of the things that we as people really want to do, which is, try to leave the world a little bit better than it was when we showed up. And so this sort of incredibly circuitous route to get there has given me a lot of comfort. This idea that this guy is going to hold up a convenience store and, really fight the urge to be himself while also acknowledge, wait, I also myself is a guy who needs Pampers.
Yeah.
Wake up, son. I've been taking these Huggies and whatever cash you got.
Yeah, no, is that like do you feel the sort of fight against your natural instincts and your natural self like HI, or is that more dialed back and you're like, no, I'm generally more cohesive, or is that a sort of roiling tempest in your mind, the two wolves of Noah Segan?
Well, I want a counterpoint here. I don't want to start a row here because I think we're all friends, but but I would argue that the conflict here isn't whether or not HI wants to be a criminal or wants to be a dad. The conflict here is how do you balance out the two? Right. Okay. And what a lesson in growth that is where in life do we find the space to find the balance between the elements of ourselves, the elements of our lives, what will we make time for, versus burning the candle at both ends and running full bore into one or the other at any given time, versus sort of existing in a space where you can spin all the plates at the same time. Yeah, I think that Raising Arizona and what's the Diane Keaton movie?
Oh, where she's very shoulder pat, and oh god, it's not 9.5 weeks. Baby Boom, is it Baby Boom? Is it
Baby Boom? It might be Baby Boom.
Is producer Marissa coming in with Baby Boom?
Thank you. I think it might be Baby Boom. I mean, I guess what I'm getting at here is I think the real question that HI and Raising Arizona asks is, can you have it all, right? Yeah. Which is sort of like the question that is more applied to working mothers, right? People who by and large are sort of tasked with doing it all. And in my family, my wife definitely does do it all, and so I think that in this sort of more traditionally masculine way, that's the question that HI is asking is, can I be this guy who hangs out with, my shithead friends who escaped from prison, and can I occasionally rob a convenience store, and can I also be a good dad? And I think the answer is yes.
I know you're worried, honey, but believe me, there ain't a thing to be worried about. We're absolutely going to get him back. There just ain't no question about that. We'll get him back. That's just all there is to it. And you want to know another thing? I'm going to be a better person from here on out. That's final. That's absolutely the way it's going to be. That's official. You were right. I was wrong. A blind man can tell you that. Now, they ain't going to hurt him, honey. They're just in it for the score. But I ain't like that no more. I'm a changed man. You were right. I was wrong. We got a family here. I'm going to start acting responsibly. So let's go, honey. Let's go get Nathan Jr.
I was going to say, in your own life, have you found the convenience stores to rob and yet, come home and still be a present and supportive father?
Listen, with a lot of support and a lot of help, I went out and I, did the ultimate theft, which is convincing people to make a movie. Right. And then show up the next day to do it again. I mean, this happened 18 days in a row. I managed to convince like a whole group of super talented people to show up again. Yeah. Which is really that's really all that a director does is try to convince people everything is great. You're doing great. What do you need to do your job? And will you please come back again and do it again? And that is sort of a heist. And hopefully it's the best kind of heist, right? It's like, the great adage, the best cons in the world are the ones where everyone gets what they want.
We are going to take a quick break, but we'll be back soon with Noah Segan. Then I will have one quick thing before I go about a brand new addition to your Christmas movie catalog, Violent Night.
Hey, I'm Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
And I'm Elliot Kalin.
Listen, you like podcasts, right? Sure you do. Don't try and lie to me. You're listening to one right now, so why not try a different one called R1, The Flophouse?
And on The Flophouse, we watch a movie and talk about it. And then sometimes we also do other stuff.
It's all meant to be funny and fun, and we think you'll have a good time. And just to be clear, the name of the podcast is not Our One, The Flophouse. It's just called The Flophouse. I do a lot of correcting Dan.
The Flophouse. A lot of correcting Dan.
Hey, it's John Moe, inviting you to listen to Depresh Mode with John Moe, where I talk about mental health and the lives we live with all kinds of people. Famous writers.
David Sedaris, welcome to Depresh Mode.
Thanks so much for having me.
Movie stars.
Jamie Lee Curtis, welcome to Depresh Mode.
I am happy to be here.
Musicians.
I am in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm talking to Amy Mann.
Great to talk to you.
And song exploders. Rishikesh Hirway, welcome to Depresh Mode.
Thanks so much for having me.
Everyone's opening up on Depresh Mode on Maximum Fun.
Welcome back to Feeling Seen. Noah Segan wrote, directed, and stars in the new film Blood Relatives. In it, he plays a 115-year-old Yiddish vampire who suddenly finds himself taking care of a girl child. That gives him some crossover then with his character choice of H.I. McDonough in Raising Arizona, as played by the singular Nicolas Cage way back in 1987. It is Family Day here on the Feeling Seen pod, so let's get back to my conversation with Noah. One of the things that's so much fun, that I enjoy so much talking about on this podcast, is the way in which these things that we watch and absorb factor into our creative lives down the line. And I think a way that I was enjoying watching Raising Arizona and it being a Coen Brothers movie and seeing Frances McDormand pop up there.
What's his name? Hi, Junior, till we think of a better one. Well, why don't you call him Jason? I just love biblical names. If I had another little boy, I would name him Jason, Caleb, or Tab. Oh! He's an angel! He's an angel straight from heaven! No, honey, I had all my kids the hard way. You just gotta tell me how you got this little angel. What do you do? Just fly straight down from heaven. Well, you're gonna send him to Arizona State.
Feeling that, familiar set of Coen, repertory players that would, of course, build over time. You have had a career where you have got to work with friends a lot. I know that the gents around Rustic Films, the producer Dave Lawson and the writer-directors Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, their entire ethos is make movies with friends. And I wanted to hear from you about coming into a life, building a life, that seems to be able to incorporate that ethos a lot. And from what I've read about you talking about Blood Relatives, this very much was an endeavor of making movies with friends, people you knew who you could keep roping in and heisting their time every day. And I wanted to hear about that element of work in your life.
Well, I appreciate that, but I do have to say, I spend a lot of time with Dave and Aaron and Justin, and we have drank a lot of beers together.
At Ye Old Rustic?
We've gotten into a lot of trouble together, and I haven't popped up in any of their
honestly now
films,
knowing this immediately now I'm calling the whole affair into question. Friends,
guys,
who clears that bar, huh? Because where's
guys, they're
Noah?
out there in the middle of the pandemic making a movie, just two buddies. They could have called. I would have zoomed in for that.
You're so right.
Which is an incredible film, by the way. Something in the Dirt. If you guys have not seen it, please immediately. I think it
truly.
But yes, I had the luxury of making my best friends in the world on the first movie I was in, which was Brick. And, that's what I'm chasing, right? I think that's what we're all chasing, is this sort of feeling like we can go home, we can go back. What if you could always go back to summer camp? And so, when we made Blood Relatives, there were a lot of people who I already knew very well, like, our executive producer, who's our executive at Shudder, Sam Zimmerman.
Yeah.
I met when I was at Fantastic Fest showing Dead Girl, I think in 2009, and he was a writer for a now defunct website, and has, of course...
I think that was, I think it was Shock Till You Drop. Yes, the head of programming at Shudder, you guys, origin story, editor of Shock Till You Drop.
And we just became friends. We just became friends because we both like cozy jackets, and we both...
That man wears a sweater. That man wears a cozy button-down sweater.
I mean, he is the sweater king, and based only on that and a love of, hardcore punk music and horror films, we became very close friends. He's one of the first people who I showed the script to, and then very sort of circuitously, I became friends with Josh Rubin. Who had worked with many of my friends, and of course, when we were trying to put it together and had no idea logistically what we were doing, I called Aaron Kuntz, who I'd worked with multiple times before, who gave us the comfort of saying, listen, this is how you actually are going to put this thing together. And just as another small world sort of connection, Liel Naim, who's the third partner in the company that made the movie with Josh and I, produced The Endless with Dave and Aaron and Justin. So,
a summer camp you really should have been at, also a literal summer camp.
But, it really does go to show that not only, of course, everything that we already knew, right? It's a small town, show business is not an enormous sort of unknowable monolith of facelessness. It really is people. But, those of us who connect, the important part is to stay connected.
Yes. Whew. I think what I love hearing so much about things like this, of just like hearing those, those circles just winding and winding and winding and like coming to that point, is there is, it's a hard industry, and there's so much, it's so like getting a movie made is a con job, and the fact of it actually coming out is kind of miraculous. And to hear about and be reaffirmed in the presence of networks of people making things with and for one another is so enlivening to hear. It's so heartening to know, because it reminds people that there is an alternative to the systems that damage people so much here, and that produce so much of the bad and the bullshit that they have to wade through, that when you hear about these microcosms that people prop up one another within them and they get the work made together, it's like, no, guys, there's a good way, there's a better way, there's a sustainable way, and it's working actually all the time.
Well, and it's empowering, right? It sort of engenders the thing that we love about the movies that we love, which is this sort of sense of ownership, right? This sense of having it be part of your, the movies that I love are part of my identity.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely no reason why making those things can't feel the same way. And in fact, I think that's kind of that comes through. I think that Ryan is a great example of a filmmaker who makes movies that he wants to see. And I think that when you are able to do that with a team, because it is a team sport, you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
And that kind of becomes the philosophy, that becomes the ethos, which is like, guys, isn't this something that we all kind of want to do together so that we can all enjoy it together? You're bringing that to the people who you don't get to meet, who are the people who are on the other side of the screen.
Well, and I think too that to have those people that you go back to, there's something, we have obviously like an MCU and there was attempts at the DCEU kind of situation, but you have these sort of cinematic or narrative universes that exist among creators who just keep coming back together to make something as a unit. And whether that is big and garish, like a Ryan Murphy production and getting his players to come back to him so many times, or something like big and like really storybooky and like thoughtful, like Mike Flanagan's team with bringing back and expanding his ensemble all the time. And then I think what Ryan does, and clearly what you're doing in your career, what the Rustic group is doing in their career, and you see that with the Coen brothers too. And there's something about, you watch those, even the early movies, where you see the sort of original cell of the coming together that will turn into something like Hail Caesar, like a big, beautiful Hollywood production starring George Clooney and all these practical sets, and Scarlett Johansson doing like a synchronized swimming number in an old studio production, like warehouse backlot. It started with something like a Raising Arizona, where a bunch of people just wanted to make the exact thing that they cared about, that extremely reflected the sensibilities and desires and priorities of the creator, and the personality, because they were able to keep people with them together for so long. The personality of what they make never has to go away, because what they create is something for people to keep wanting to come back to. And I think that allows for that kind of individuality to flourish. It allows for the idiosyncrasy to flourish and maintain. And in an era where you hear so much about like IP and things being recycled and sort of brought back out of the archives, I think that's really nice to know that you can count on something that's been coming through time and maturing and ripening, and that it will always provide the thing that you want because it's familiar, but hopefully because it's gestated within the confines of something so safe, like these microcosms that some people are able to and lucky enough to forge. It can still take you to surprising places because they still feel the safety of being bold creatives, and that's really cool.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and I think that extends, on an even more macro level to genre, right? I think that that's why, even though it's maybe not full of blood and guts, and it's quite earnest and sincere, that's why Blood Relatives is a vampire movie, because being able to play in a genre is being able to be comforted, right? It's being able to sort of feel like we are all unified over not just a script, but over a tone, over a vibe, over a thing that we can after work have a drink and talk about, and I think to that end, when you look at the Coens and you look at something like Raising Arizona, you're looking at a genre movie. You're looking at, going back to Blood Simple, going forward to, Hudsucker or Miller's Crossing. I mean, these are all genre movies. These are all playing with tropes and styles that may be chopped and screwed and augmented a little bit, but again, designed to sort of not only create a comfort for the people who are working on it, but then create something that is nice and inclusive to the people watching it.
Well, and coming into directing, I wondered, did transitioning into or adding that to your ambidextry, being a director, was that something that you felt did that sort of come out of a sense of necessity of like, well, I guess to make the thing that I really want, I have to do it myself? Or was it a curiosity, creative fulfillment kind of thing?
I think that honestly, it was trying to do as much as I possibly could so that the people that were going to get on this crazy train with me were made to be as comfortable as possible. So you have the benefit of, and this, is a gift from having worked with a lot of filmmakers who write their own scripts, right? When you have a script that you like and that other people like, it becomes inner text. It becomes sort of evangelical, right? In the best sense of the word, where you can always point to the script and say, hey guys, this is the thing that we're doing, right? And you like it and I like it. And so let's just, as confusing as these things are and as challenging as every day is, and whatever obstacle you didn't expect to come is going to come, you can go ahead and just sort of point to the script, and that can sort of get you at least as far as production. And then when you get into production, or at least when I got into production, and it became time to sort of say, okay, well, am I playing this role and and directing and producing and having written it? It really just became a question of trying to do as much as I could to make the people who were showing up for not a lot of money, for the love of the game, for long days, as comfortable as possible. And hopefully let them feel like they could do their thing and be happy doing it.
Well, and I'm racing to the conclusion here. I'm bereft. I have to get my last question into you would be like going into the screenwriting side of it. I was reading in an interview you saying that I think if I had read it correctly, it was that you were like, I regret not having really focused on screenwriting sooner. Like that was something that you had talked about, sort of wishing you had put more deliberate time into prior to a few years ago. And it sounds like you really started digging into that a lot more. And what I wondered was then, now that this is something, now that you've brought your feature film debut to life, you obviously like have scripts in the bank, clearly, that you've written. What are you finding as you get further into the process of making the stories for yourself? Is that opening up kinds of stories that you want to tell or see that perhaps were not as front of mind before, or that have created a greater sense of possibility for what you would like to exist because you're like, well, shit, I'm doing this now? Has writing the stories expanded your imagination in that way at all?
I think, on an abstract level, I feel like I've known what I've wanted to do, which is, since I was a kid, since before I acted, and I was a camera assistant. I knew I wanted to be on sets. I knew I wanted to do something that could be making movies in some respect. The thing that has been a big sea change for me has really been having a partner, my wife, who is one of the best writers in the world.
Awesome.
And
great life hack, Noah.
Great life hack is, again, but it sort of speaks to everything we were saying, which is that, if you surround yourself with people who inspire you and people who are doing the things that you want to do, then, it can put a battery in your back. It can be a motivator. And so I really being able to read my wife's work and see her meteoric rise and how much she is able to concentrate on not just a concept, not just a joke, but really telling a story and really having it be something that is full-fledged, has forced me to go back and realize, wait a minute, that's exactly what Ryan has always done. That's exactly what my friends who I appreciate, and even the people who I don't know, like the Coens, have done, is sort of, you can put in the work. You can sort of achieve the thing that has felt so abstract for so long. So, I guess to answer your question, the great privilege and gift that I have received recently in my life has been just the confidence that it's possible. So not even the confidence that I'm going to accomplish it, not the confidence that I'm going to make it, that the movie's going to be good or the script is going to be good, but that I can finish it. Totally. And that I can have something that, does have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and at least to some degree sort of say the thing that's in my heart. Right. And of course, that's easy when you're talking about something that is in your heart. That's you. When you're looking in the mirror and you're saying, what is it to be a dad? What is it to become a parent and to juggle, the person who you thought you were and the person who you are now, and make a movie about that. But, as I continue to write and as I continue to, try to share the stories, I realize that's all that it is even if you're speaking through somebody who isn't having the exact same experience as you are, you're still trying to apply that to either something that you've heard about, or something that someone has gone through, or something that you wish you were going through. It's at the end of the day, it's the silliest thing in the world, but it's all right what you know. God
damn it, when those adages are just actually true. Noah, I have to release you to the winds, to the gods of time. Thank you so much for coming on. I knew I'd want to talk to you for this long. I really appreciate you being here.
I would say that this has been such an incredible pleasure, and that I hope that my trajectory is a little bit different than H.I. McDonough in Raising Arizona. Although I will end this to say that I did recently watch The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, and what is incredible about that story, and to sort of, to try and come full circle on the Nick Cage experience here, that's a movie about fatherhood as well. And it's a movie about, I think, a more personal experience that Nick has had with fatherhood. And to that end, I think it just goes to show you that, we're all trying to work the same shit out for our whole lives.
Yes.
And it is really cool to be able to do that in a way where we can share it with other people who maybe we don't even know. And so thank you guys for that.
It was so much fun, sincerely, to talk with Noah Segan. When the movie came around, when Blood Relatives came around, and the possibility to talk to him, it was like, oh man, I feel like this could really be a good one. I really hope we can get time with Noah Segan. And that fulfilled every hope I had. So thank you again to Noah. Blood Relatives is a Shudder original. So get over there to Shudder. You can have that, or you can have AMC Plus subscription. You can watch that movie. And also, you can catch him, of course, in the new Rian Johnson movie, Glass Onion, because if it's a Rian Johnson movie, it's got to be a Noah Segan appearance, and he makes perfect little appearances in the film. I won't spoil how, because it's fun to find out what he's up to in the movie. And now I have one quick thing before I go, and that is about the movie Violent Night, the new starring David Harbour as a jaded Santa who's been doing the job for way too long, and all these people losing their Christmas spirit is bringing him down. It is directed by Tommy Wirkola, who, if you are a fan of the Dead Snow movies, he wrote and directed those, as in Dead Snow and Dead Snow 2 Red vs. Dead. He's also done Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, among several other things. So that's like the tone. There's like a sort of high energy, high jinx thing that Tommy Wirkola specializes in. And Violent Night is take a great, irreverent, bad Santa in the hulking form of David Harbour and drop him into the life of one family, one rich family, whose home is being sieged by bad guys with guns for reasons I won't reveal. But when they start menacing this family, and in particular, like the youngest grandchild, adorable little Trudy, who is has the most beautiful Christmas spirit living in her of anybody in that house. She is keeping the hope alive. She is keeping the Christmas fires burning, played by a little actress named Leah Brady. When he comes into contact with her in the midst of the chaos and people being killed, he realizes it is time to find the Christmas spirit left in him and protect this baby child and make sure that he can save her and that he can save Christmas for her. And this is a beat down movie. This is people getting fucked up. Once the bell rings, this is people getting obliterated with things like sledgehammers and bowling balls and nails and guns. So this is a straight up action horror movie. This is bloody. This is with Christmas puns and Christmas jokes, and David Harbour as like a pretty much alcoholic Santa. shouting at his reindeer, for very unprofessionally defecating on the roofs of houses that they stop at. It's a real, for David Harbour's Santa, it's a real I wasn't even supposed to be here today sort of energy for a while, until he really kicks over and realizes that, like, he has the fire burning in him to fucking save Christmas. It's a very fun time. Dear friend of me, and therefore friend of the show, filmmaker Sam Weinman, he is a Christmas movie aficionado in addition to a horror movie specialist, and he loves the merging of the two, loves some Christmas horror. When he saw this, he started talking immediately about how he's like, this is one of, like, straight up the best Christmas movies I've seen in years. And also, it's a thrilling genre movie. And he's like, I had so much fun, and I cried like 3 times. And I got emotional during this movie as well. I was definitely, like, sniffling and kind of dabbing back tears on a couple of occasions. And also, big ups to this movie for casting as the rich family matriarch Beverly D'Angelo, who Beverly D'Angelo, White Lotus season 3. Like, we need, like, smoky voiced, scary, bad bitch Beverly D'Angelo, like, everywhere. I was so happy to see her in this movie, and she's so mean and intimidating, but, like, so small. It's a perfect combination of circumstances to be, like, the surprising, frightening head of a family packaged in a pantsuit and, like, blonde pressed hair. But yeah, Violent Night. What a good Christmas kick-ass time at the movies. Go see it with a group. It was a great, I got the chance to see it in a theater, and so it was it was filled with ohs and ahs and groans and moans the entire time. Someone's face gets set on fire by a Christmas star. I won't tell you who or how or when, but, like, that's the kind of thing that you'll be looking forward to in Violent Night. So that's it. That is the one quick thing, and that is our show. You can follow us on Twitter at FeelingSeenPod, or you can send us an email at feelingseen@MaximumFun.org. If you want to follow me, I'm JorCrew on Twitter, JORCRU. Our theme music is by Andrew Epen. The show is produced by Marissa Flaxbart. Our senior producers are Kevin Ferguson and Laura Swisher, and this is a production of Maximum Fun.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned. Audience supported.